Welcome into Knicks Mail.bag, brought to you by the Strickland. Yes, we're back, folks. It's been a little while. Took the first part of the season off, but we are back taking your mailbag questions from the Strickland Discord, which of course you can become a member of if you're part of the Patreon, which I'll get to in just a moment. But first, I'm Alex Wolf. I'm the editor and chief of the Strickland. You might also know me from Locked On Knicks, and I'm joined by my fabulous co-hosts in glorious HD here on YouTube, because we do YouTube now. First one of the new season. I gotta decide who I'm gonna introduce first. Who's making the best eyes at me? Matt's trying to play it cool. He's almost breaking. I'm gonna introduce Whack. Yeah. Zach Delizio. How are you, Zach? How are you doing today?
Tremendous eye movement on these eyebrows right now.
You're gonna have to keep that going the whole episode, or else I'm retracting this.
It's really exhausting, actually. This is really tiring.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, try it. Just keep that going for a minute.
Okay, I'll keep going. And then we have Matt, also known as Warm Perm. How are you today, Matt?
Alex, I'm so glad to be back. Wow. 6 months, no mailbag. How did we survive?
You sound so enthusiastic. That has been a long time. All right. Well, let me real quick before we get into anything else, remind everybody that this show is brought to you by Bet Online, and I don't have the copy up, so hold on one second. Okay. This show is brought to you by Bet Online. Come on. Open. All right, with the NFL playoffs here and the NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. And with additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get into the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right. And now I remind everybody about the Patreon. So if you want to support us, head to patreon.com/the Strickland or go to the strict.land and click on the Patreon tab. This pod is brought to you for free in glorious HD, although maybe not forever. I don't know. Maybe we'll pay all this. We're corporate greedy bastards. But at any rate, you can go to the Patreon for as little as $6 a month. You can get access to the Strickland Discord, where you could ask the questions that appear in Knicks Mail.bag. You also get access to Pod Strickland Friday edition. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Bozos, our sister show that used to be the other Knicks Mail.bag, but now it's Takes from Obvious Bozos, where they call people bozos all day. It's like a more mean-spirited version of this show. It's great. And then you also get I think you get the merch discount code in that one. I don't know. If not, sue me. But you can also move up to the $9 tier, and there you get access to Schwinn's solo pod Stricken Roll, and you also get access to exclusive written pieces from Matthew Miranda and others. Sometimes Jeff Rasmussen pops in there to write a nice premium piece for you guys. So get access to all the best stuff right there in that tier. Then there's other tiers ranging from $15 to $100 a month if you really freaking love us. I can't imagine loving me that much, but if you do, then you can go and do that. But anyway, check it out at patreon.com/the Strickland or the strict.land and click on Patreon. All right, guys, who's ready to answer some questions?
Let's do it. I'm trying to keep up the excitement level,
You guys sound so excited. Oh boy. All right, so let's get into our first question. Comes from our buddy Zan Rosen, who we've actually met a couple times at Strickland meetups. What's up?
Shout to Zan.
Shout to Zan. Didn't you guys smoke a blunt outside together?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. We had a great time.
Not to blow up his spot or anything.
Oh no, he's smoking weed in New York.
Yeah, nobody's ever done that. It's not even a misdemeanor anymore.
No, it's not.
All right. Zan wants to know. This is a nice softball to start us off. This is a good return question. What has been your favorite thing about the Knicks so far this season? Zach, as the preferred blunt rotation, I'll ask you first. What do you think?
That's a really good question, because it's trying to distill so much into something really concise. I think just the way they play, like the identity they have as a team, is just like a bunch of guys who are going to beat the shit out of you in every possible aspect. And like sometimes it backfires, right? Like they almost get too crazy and too physical and things start getting wild. Like that's Josh Hart incarnate, right? Like Josh Hart just going wild in transition. Like this could go one of two ways, but the energy itself is what really identifies his team to me. And that's what I've really been enjoying a lot. Cause like there have been very few games where they are not, I can't even think of one really. I've definitely missed a couple games, but any game where they have not been bringing the effort, like they've been fucking up, of course, and they will shoot poorly, but they will bring effort pretty much every single night. Maybe Julius had some nights there where him individually was not really doing that, but lately
they're coming off a game where they didn't really put in a lot of effort. But I don't disagree with you. But that Grizzlies game the other day, they didn't really try. What?
The Memphis game?
The Memphis game, they didn't really try.
Yeah, I didn't watch that game. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah.
My God, Zach.
Zach. He's like panic muting.
Dog, Discord sends me 16 notifications at one time and then stops completely.
Why did you just get so many at once?
Nothing changed. Nothing changed. It's the exact same thing I was just looking at, but now it's muted, so everything's fine.
Anyway,
God,
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I thought maybe Strickland Discord was just blowing up and like fucking Embiid just got traded to the Knicks or some shit.
Can you imagine if we had to react to that live?
Wow, that'd be pretty fun, man. Except then they'd be like, "Gosh, you need to take over the goddamn StreamYard account."
Yeah, that's right. I know. We'd have Schwinn like trying to break through like the Kool-Aid man, being like,
Schwinn would just pop in anyway. Just be like, guys, emergency pod Strickland. We switch the banner right away. We're just like, okay, well, I guess it's pod Strickland now. Thanks. Anyway, all right, we got so far off the rails there. Matt, what's been your favorite thing about the Knicks so far?
I mean, it's actually pretty similar to Zach. I'm gonna exempt the Memphis game from this because, like, honestly, that team showed up with like one viable NBA player, and so I kind of get that they weren't really able to get up mentally for the game. I know we were all pissed off about it at the time, but kind of makes sense. It happens. They have been what?
They won by 10.
They won by 10. I know. I was complaining to Alex about this. I mean, and you, but you weren't participating. About how like everyone was acting like they were losing, and they just like cruised to a 10-point win. I mean, it was fucking annoying for a while, but they won by less than they should have. But still, it wasn't like they didn't have to play hard at the end. Like it was over with 2 minutes left. Anyway, they've been like beating the teams they need to beat. They are now that Utah's over 500. Somebody pointed this out in the Discord the other day, so I'm sorry for who I'm stealing this from, but they're undefeated against teams under 500.
Wow.
Like, that's, got to take care of business against the bad teams, and they are. So, pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's solid. I would say, I mean, my thing sort of goes along with you guys in a way. I think, I mean, regardless of how people feel about the OG deal, still, I don't know if there's still any dissenting opinions about that, about, giving up quickly, whatever. But I think my favorite thing right now, which may be a little bit of recency bias because it's only been the last 7-game sample, but is that this team is legitimately a move or two away from actual contention, I think, which is rewarding to feel like. It's nice to look at this team. There was a bit of me that was worrying a little bit that like, what if this team, like, granted, I said for years that I'd be fine with this, and I would just enjoy having competent basketball and racking up 5 seeds and winning a couple playoff series, and just in general having a fun team to root for once for more than like 2 years in a row. But there was a part of me that, the part of me that likes to strive for something better than that was a little worried that this team might turn into like the mid-2000s Hawks, where it's just like, oh, they're going to be good. They're never going to really contend to get over the hump. You know what I mean? Like, they'll be fine. They'll be inoffensively good. And, it'll be a fun ride while you're on it. And, and then eventually they'll just have to kind of like blow it up a little bit. And hopefully they don't have to screw it up too hard to, not be fun to watch anymore, which granted, we saw how things went with the Hawks and they somehow got better and ended up in 1 seed at one point and obviously shit the bed pretty hard and never really made anything of it. And then, drafted a sticky lollipop for a point guard who has made them even worse over the years. But anyway, I'm happy to see that like they made the move for OG and now it's like, oh, this team could play really, really good and like beat the shit out of some good teams. And clearly they're still not quite there yet. Like they still need that extra bit of like ball handling and little bit of extra scoring and a little more punch, especially off the bench. Like the bench is definitely missing Emmanuel quickly at this point, and what he would bring to the games. But things are headed in the right direction, I think. And with the right move, if they play their cards correctly, this team might actually be like an actual title contender at some point soon. So that's got me feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you guys have anything else to add to that before we move to our next question?
It's a weird thing to even think about, right? Like it's like, but you're right. Like you add the right player to this, and they're like, oh my god, wait, look around real quick. Like they can beat anyone.
Yeah, if you squint hard enough, they look almost like contending teams some nights.
Yeah. I think a lot of nights, honestly.
Yeah, that Philly win was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, and the Minnesota win, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I know that was a close game, but they like completely rolled them for 3 quarters and then kind of fell apart. But like they still won.
Yeah. I mean, all you gotta do is just win in the end. I mean, that's I guess, to piggyback on your thing, Matt. Like the thing that I like is that they are continually proving that they can pull a win out of their ass, which they never used to be able to. Like it used to be like, you better get up and you better keep that lead, because otherwise, like if the other team starts that comeback, you're toast. Like you don't have it. Like you don't have the, the fucking chutzpah to like fucking, finish this game off and get it done. And doesn't seem to be a problem anymore, especially against the not so great teams. So that's been very reassuring, I think, to me too this year, is that they're good enough to just be a good team. Which
mental resilience.
Yes, mental resilience. All right, let's move to our next question. Oh, this sort of builds off of that, where we ended that last question. So this comes from ZMP323 in the Discord. What is this team's ceiling if they add a legit bench creator, and who would you like them to target? So Matt, I'll throw that to you first as our resident trade and cap expert.
Totally. Maybe in like 2014 when I actually knew what the cap rules were. I don't remember them anymore. Anyway, Alex, I know you're with me on this. Alex and I both, and this is not a bench creator, but it kind of is the way I imagine them using him, both want DeJounte Murray. The thing is that all the reporting says he's going to cost more than I think they should pay for him. Like, I was imagining basically that the Hawks are like going to drop him for nothing, and they would be able to do it for Fournier and a first-round pick. I'd do like 2 of the protected picks if I had to. But it seems like he won't cost that. If they could get him for that, then I was imagining a scenario where, of course, he starts at shooting guard, but plays like the vast majority of his minutes as the bench point guard. And they'd obviously have to kind of have worked this out, because Clutch clients are always so whiny. They'd have to like work out with Clutch that this is the role we envision for him. Is he okay with this if we trade for him? Because this is the constant pushback together. Like, he's never going to agree to that. So yeah, you only do this if, number one, it doesn't cost that much, and if 2, that he's going to play along in the effort to win a championship, which, like, he's making his money either way. Like, he signed his contract. I'd get if he was due for an extension, but he literally just signed his contract. That's why they couldn't trade for him the day after Anunoby. Frankly, I think, based on some reporting that's out there, I think if they could have traded for him on December 30th, they probably would have traded for both him and Anunoby on the same day. But it kind of seems like, since they couldn't, and once they traded quickly to the Raptors, the Murray deal was going to be a little tougher. I wouldn't have wanted to trade quickly for DeJounte Murray anyway. But it seems like there was a possibility that was like a one way to swing both of them. But the thing is, back to my point, the reason they couldn't trade for him on December 30th, like they did with Anunoby, is because he just signed an extension. So, like, why is he going to be like, I don't want to sacrifice my role? It's not going to affect a contract at this point. Like, he's got his contract. So I would hope that he would be willing to understand that, like, you're still going to play 30 minutes a game. Like, you're still going to get your minutes, and you're going to get to run the bet. Like, you'd rather, like, just because of the recognition of playing your minutes with the stars, you'd rather, like, be playing off ball with Brunson. Doesn't he want the ball? Like, I don't know. I think he would be more willing than people seem to think, given that he has his contract already, to again, he'd be starting. He'd probably be finishing, but he would mostly be playing with the bench. And like that, they're not going to do better than that with. I don't think anyone's going to try to tell us that he's better, like he's not as good as Brogdon. He's better than Brogdon. The problem is that Brogdon is obviously going to come off the bench to trade for him, and Murray will not, and you'd have to kind of – Tibbs would have to get more creative than he normally is. But again, this would all have to be worked out in advance. So that's who I would want. If that's not going to work for price or role reasons, then I think Brogdon's the guy. Although he looked, I mean, Alex and I saw how bad he looked at the game last week. He looked fucking awful. So I don't know if maybe we don't want Brogdon anymore, but hopefully that was just Anunoby and Hart and Grimes are just like really good defensively and totally smothering him. But assuming Brogdon is not washed, then Brogdon is like for the price that it would cost, probably the better option.
I think Brogdon was just trying to drive his price down in front of Leon.
So.
We know that Leon loves to do business in person.
That's right.
Like all these deals seem to come, to be right. Like a day or two after whatever team visits MSG or the Knicks visit whatever team. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Actually, that makes me really curious when the next Knicks Hawks game is, because I'd be really curious to see if that ends up leading to a Murray deal. Like if they have a game before the trade deadline, which I'll look up in a moment because now I'm curious about it. But Zach, who would you be looking for as the missing piece here for the Knicks? Whether a bench creator or would you think a bigger splash this season would be?
Bigger splash is, I think, a different discussion entirely. So I think we'll probably end up talking about that another time. Maybe wait, I don't know. But for a bench piece specifically, I think the answer is probably Brogdon. I think another name that was floated around that is no longer viable is Jordan Clarkson, which I think would be an incredible fit. But they're just not going to move him at this point. He's a good player. He's in the perfect role. He would be perfect for his team. Shooter, spark plug, but they're above 500, like you mentioned earlier. I don't think they're going to make a move like that. Murray scares me a little bit because he seems like an asshole. And I think these things are often underrated. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, his ego very well may be enough, like, massaged enough by getting an extension that he will be okay with what is, in effect, a similar role to what he's playing in Atlanta, by the way. Like, it's going to be the same idea. But based on what I've read about him, he seems like a really ego-driven person. I'm guessing it's more about he thinks he's good enough to be the number one player. And he's not going to be the number one or even the number two, by the way, because Randall's still better than him. Yeah. And I would trust more with the ball than Murray. Murray's a good player, but he's not that good. He seems to be a little moody. You can kind of see, and I think this speaks to Brogdon the other night also, when you get on a bad team, it's difficult to motivate yourself. Mm-hmm. Bro, have you guys ever played on a pickup team where you're playing the first 5 points and you're playing as hard as you can, and then you go down 5-0 and you realize your team sucks and you're just like, I'm not playing defense anymore. Like, this is pointless. I'm wasting my energy. I'm not doing this anymore. That's what Malcolm Brogdon did the other night. You're getting smacked by a better team. He knew it. He's just like, whatever. I think he'll be fine once you get him in the door. I wouldn't blame him at all. He's on a terrible team. I wouldn't want to play hard either. You're risking getting injured. Like, he knows who he is. He's a professional in this league.
To your point, he didn't even come in until the Blazers were already down like 20. Like, he didn't play when it was close.
You walk in, you're down 20, like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
The team sucks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, and the Knicks are a good team now. It's one thing, like, they beat the Nets the other day. Okay, that makes sense. You come out and play against the Nets, but these things matter. The way people approach the game matters. I think Brogdon is professional. I would be much more likely to take him. I think it's much less risky. You could get him for cheaper, probably. I think it's an easier choice in that sense.
So just, Alex, if you don't mind, I just want to respond to what Zach said about Murray, like, being egotistical. That seems to be the case. It's just what I'm imagining here, and I didn't make this full point, is the understanding would basically be, look, come play here for half a season. We might win a championship if you do this, and then we'll fucking flip you for wherever you want to go. But, like, this is what if he's so egotistical that he won't, like, take a back seat to try to win, because I think if he's going to buy in and he's the bench point guard but playing starters minutes, I think this is a contender. So, like, I don't know how. I mean, some guys don't care about winning, and if he's one of those guys, then fuck him. But but I hope that's not the case. And I would only want them to bring him in if like they were confident that he's going to play ball.
Yeah. I think that's the key though, is like personality. Do you think that's because they like we were talking about earlier, like they do have an identity, of a team culture. Stuff does matter a lot.
Yeah.
And if you disrupt that, that could fuck up everything. Like that's not an exaggeration.
And it's not impossible that he says he'll play along and then gets decided a month later he doesn't want to play along, and now you're stuck.
I'm sure he was saying that to the Hawks, right?
Yeah.
And now he just doesn't care or try. And is just getting his. It seems like that's my impression having watched him play a couple times.
Yeah, I think I'm at the point where with Murray, I'd be willing to. I'm sort of with you, Matt. Like, I'm willing to just like roll the dice if the price is right. Of course, like the price being right to me would be like the Knicks' own first round pick this year, one of those useless Washington or Detroit picks, and like Fournier and I don't freaking know. Like, I definitely wouldn't do Grimes. Like, that would be a deal breaker for me. Like, I'd just be like, whatever we can do, like Jericho Sims, I guess, if it took that. They're like, oh, we want to get like one young player back. Like, fine, take him. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think that you can bet on. Well, so first off, it's if you bet on the shooting, which the results so far this year, I mean, maybe it'll end up being an outlier season for his career, but he's now got half a season shooting 38% on like 6 attempts from 3 this year.
And over 40% on catch and shoot.
Mm-hmm. And he's shooting really well on catch and shoot. Now, does he move well enough without the ball in his hands? Probably not. But like, hopefully you can absorb that with the starters for the minutes that he plays. And then I envision him playing the exact same way as what you said, Matt, like not off the bench, but like with the bench, like being that guy that they always wanted RJ to be, where he's like, sub out Brunson relatively early, sub out Randall relatively early, and then have, they would have RJ stay out there with the bench. Instead, have Murray stay out there for like the whole first quarter. He can sit the start of the second for like 5 minutes or whatever, and then bring him back in. Then he gets to play like 30, 35 minutes or whatever, you know what I mean? Or 35, 36 minutes, gets to put up huge stats with the bench unit because my God, they would be nasty with him at point guard. I mean, if it was him, Grimes, Hart, I guess Precious from time to time, but Hartenstein, I guess, just going to play like 42 minutes a game now.
Well, I think, the scenario where they do this, you have to. The other thing that I forgot to mention is Tibbs has to play Randall at the 5, I think, because you just don't have enough minutes to go around if you want Murray to play starter minutes.
I mean,
so
you're relegating
5 minutes a game, but like
stinks, bro. I don't
well,
know.
and then this moves DiVincenzo back to the bench too. So then he's on the bench.
And he's got to play his minutes. Grimes has to play his minutes. Hart, and Tibbs is going to want to play Hart 25, 28 minutes a game. He's going to want to do that. So like that's got to factor in.
That would be a fun bench unit though, like a Randall at the 5, switch everything, mad defense, and just
kill. Randall, OG, Hart, Grimes, Murray. That's like defensively and offensively. That's really because you can just
go with that whenever you want. Like if you're playing a team that's going small, you can just go to that.
I think they are starting to trust, or at least Tibbs is willing to give a shot. OG is like a sort of rim protector too. Granted, he only went to that look with Randall at the Randall OG 4-5. He only went to that for like a minute in one game
because he picked the worst time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like he picked it against a team where you couldn't, you shouldn't have done that. Maybe he did that just to be like, well, I tried it. Didn't work.
I think he did it on purpose. I do. Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
I think he's intentional like that sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. I see a world where if you take Murray and you're also putting him then not next to a literal traffic cone in Trae Young, like Jalen Brunson has many of the same flaws that Trae does, like physically and whatever, as far as being able to defend in the NBA, but doesn't have any of the flaws of apathy. Like he tries on defense. He draws charges. He deflects passes all the time, generates steals. Like he's not useless out there like Trae is. And I could see where that would be like demoralizing too to a guy like Murray if he's out there and he's just being asked to do all of the work in the backcourt on the defensive end. Granted, I haven't watched enough Atlanta to see, but like, everybody's been citing like, well, their defense hasn't gotten any better. If anything, it's gotten worse with Murray there with Trae. So like, what is he even doing there? It's like, fine, maybe you believe that. But, the other thing is if the Knicks make this acquisition and basically just do it for Fournier and some picks, there's no doubt that Murray becomes more attractive to a different team as a building block for a trade, to say, like, if it's some team that's like, well, we don't want to totally, rebuild. We just want to kind of reload a bit. You find a team like Toronto where they were trading OG and they were like, well, we don't want to get like total trash bags back. Like, we want like actual NBA players.
Right.
Murray is an actual NBA player who has shown that he can at least like solo, like he did this in San Antonio. He can by himself keep your team afloat enough to make like the play-in. And that would be appealing to a lot of teams, I think, if they're looking to be like, well, we want to still sell our fans on like being somewhat competitive, but we want some other draft picks back and stuff for this like superstar we're trading. Then you can move Murray. If it's like a Cleveland situation, they're like, well, we're willing to move Mitchell, but we still want to be competitive because we have a good core. Then move Murray there, and then
I just don't agree. We've had this conversation a number of times in Discord, I think, but like I just don't agree that if I'm the Cavs, I probably would rather Murray, Grimes, and 2 firsts to Grimes and 4 firsts for Donovan Mitchell. Like, why would you not? Murray, especially? I think Murray next to Garland would work pretty well. So like, why? I don't know. Everyone else
general thought of him
down saying they don't want Murray, they want those picks, but like, I don't know. They want to be good. So
it's kind of the same general thought of him next to Brunson or him next to Trey, him next to Garland. I mean, it's like, can he be a decent 2-guard? Can he make up for the defensive deficiencies of those guys? Can he shoot the 3 well, which this year he has been? I mean, if he keeps shooting the 3 like that, like, and would come to the Knicks this year, they would be freaking dynamite. I mean, that's so much 3-point shooting then that they have. Finally, the Knicks would have that much 3-point shooting. As far as Brogdon, though, like, I think my only worry with Brogdon and pursuing him heavy is I think that there's going to be a bidding war for him because everyone views him as like the safe, like if Murray is like, I don't know, like a BMW 7 Series or some shit that you're like, I don't know if this is totally worth it, but I'll spend up for it, I guess, whatever. Maybe I'll look for one used, like, which would kind of be what the Knicks are doing. Like Malcolm Brogdon is like a Hyundai Sonata. You know what I mean? It's like he's dependable, he's good, maybe a little more expensive than like a whatever, a Corolla or a Civic or something, but he's dependable, he's good, he's worth it. But it's like when you're on the market and there's more of the high end pieces out there available and less of those like mid-tier guys, then the mid-tier market is going to shoot up. It's maybe a more apt thing would have been like
the value of getting a premier asset actually kind of it's better than spending on a mid-tier asset. So
exactly. Yeah. Maybe the housing market would have been a better analogy here because this definitely happened in the housing market.
That's a good one. No, you're
like around me, it was like, high tier houses now are coming down in price. There's too many of them, but like starter homes are still like ridiculously expensive because there's only so many of them. You know what I mean? And so I do worry that Brogdon's price is going to go up to like a couple 1st-round picks and whatever. And fine, he's probably worth that, but I also worry that he, as the starting block for a superstar trade, would be a little less appealing because I don't think you can make that same case to some team.
Trade, though. You can move him to someone else, but you're totally right.
Also, he's only on a contract for 1 year after this year, so like it's just not as appealing. If the Cavs are trading, and like I don't even know if I want Donovan Mitchell, but like if the Cavs are trading for Murray, they've got him for 3 more years after this, 4 more years after this, because the extension doesn't kick in until next year. So like, I don't know. That does worry me.
I think Murray's just way more volatile. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think it's a bigger name. Like, if you're the Cavs, do you want to go sell your fancy your package for Donovan Mitchell is like Murray and Grimes or Malcolm Brogdon and Grimes? Like,
true,
I think
true. But you also, if you are getting Murray and then he shoehorns and he fucks up your entire team, because
if it doesn't go well,
then you're like, well, who cares how we sell it because we screwed up.
Right.
So those are all valid considerations. Just like how much risk do you want to take, right? Like Murray is going to be more risky, and you're going to be using some of your assets most likely that you would otherwise be using on like Joel Embiid or Donovan Mitchell, all these guys down the line that you think are going to take you over the top. Whereas Brogdon just safer. And like, honestly, in the end, I don't think the Knicks even have to do anything. Like it would be a luxury. I don't think you have to go get Brogdon. Like if the price gets too high, you can just let someone else go get him. It's fine. You don't have to go crazy. This team is good. I don't think Brogdon is really putting you into like true contention. He makes you better for sure, and he addresses a huge weakness. But in the playoffs, Brunson's going to play like 42 minutes, and so is Randall. So one of them is going to be on the floor all the time. They'll be okay. Like it's a marginal upgrade, and it's helpful, but you don't need it. That's the type of thing you need to do when you have that 1A all here now. Then you go get Brogdon. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, Zach. My two concerns are, like, we saw what the Knicks looked like without. I know, again, I don't think they got up mentally for the Grizzlies, but do we know if Brunson's playing today? Like, it'll be interesting to see what they look like today without him. I think even those 6 minutes might be a fucking disaster because Randall cannot run the team.
Well, he can sometimes. He can in the right matchups, right?
Yeah, but sometimes his mind is not even there in the playoffs, which is unbelievable. But sometimes he's not.
If he's going to be shitting his pants that badly, you're not going anywhere anyway.
That's true, but it seems like, I don't know. I just am worried, and we're going to have a few more weeks to figure this out. I really hope Tibbs plays. I want to see a lot of minutes with Deuce and Randall because I think we need to see what they look like. Yeah. I think to answer your question on, like, is it worth it? We need to see. We know Deuce can't run the offense. But, like, can they operate without Brunson if Randall's running the offense? Or can they not? And if they can't, even those 6 minutes a game, it's the fucking playoffs. Unfortunately, you need someone who's going to play those 6 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we sort of missed the one part of this question, though, before we move to our next question. So Zach wants to know, what is this team's ceiling if they add a legit bench creator? So assuming that, well, let's just do it where we say, what is the ceiling this season, or let's say through the next 2 seasons, if they add, because Brogdon has 2 years on his deal, right, and Murray has more than that. So what would be their ceiling if they add Brogdon, and what will be their ceiling if they add Murray potentially? And obviously, ceiling implies everything goes perfectly. So let's say ceiling and floor, I guess. What would they be in your estimation, Zach? What do you think for each of those guys?
Ceiling probably in the Eastern. With Murray, ceiling probably. I think with both of them, ceiling is an Eastern Conference contender. I don't think that's unreasonable, especially because we know every year someone gets injured somewhere, right? Like you get a Giannis injury, and all of a sudden you're in the Eastern Conference. Like this shit happens all the time, right? So I don't think that's crazy at all. Even without an injury, like they've been very good, and they're only going to get better as they learn to play with each other. And they're addressing a huge weakness now. Because of the variability, I think the downside is much stronger with Murray, but the upside is also there. But I think that's the thing. That's where I come down. Like, I don't think it really, between the two of them, the outcome changes all that much in the grand scheme of things. I think you're still missing the biggest piece that really makes you a true contender.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much there. I do think, Matt, I feel like you already mentioned this, which is why I'm just going to say it. Like, I think there's a chance that if you get Murray this season and things broke exactly correct and he took the role perfectly, you don't be the team that gets injured and has those sort of things to deal with and whatever, because obviously that derails everything. But I think they realistically could make the finals and realistically could win a finals.
Well, if you get to the finals, you can win. Like, yeah. I mean, if you're there, you're there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, but I mean, this isn't like past years where like you would be like, well, my team might win the East, but then you run into whoever comes out of the West. Like, it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
So I think there's a realistic chance that they could potentially win a championship if they get Murray for basically just Fournier and a couple picks and can leave everything else more or less untouched. Still have Deuce there as a break in case of emergency. Still have Grimes coming off the bench. Still have Hart, DiVincenzo, like everybody. There's a chance this team would be deep enough with enough shooting, enough contingency plans and stuff like that, and especially if Mitch comes back towards the end of the year, like forget it. Like they could realistically win a championship. Without that, or like as far as floor, I mean, they could flame out in the first round, like especially if Murray would not be on board. I think if they get Brogdon, they're probably making it to the second round again. Just because he's more consistent, but you know, he doesn't have quite that two-way pop, that two-way like studness to him that you would get out of a Murray, or that superstar quality, like legitimate superstar quality that Murray does have. Like he is a potential like triple double man, like that can, you know, score 35 or 40 on a night and potentially like propel you to victory, whatever. I don't know if like Brogdon will have those scoring outbursts, but you wouldn't have that two-way impact that the ideal version of Murray has. But I could still see them making it to like an Eastern Conference Finals. if the cookie broke properly. But Matt, what do you think before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically with you, Alex. I think I'll do Brogdon first. I think Brogdon, the ceiling is probably in Eastern Conference Finals, and the floor is basically like where they are now. I think if Brogdon doesn't work out, the team is basically what it is. The risk with Murray, like Zach was saying, is that the team gets worse if it doesn't go well. I don't think Brogdon being bad would make the team worse. I think he just wouldn't play, and then you would just be where you were. But the ceiling, I agree with Alex, is them winning the championship, because like if they get past the Bucks and Celtics, there's no reason to believe they can't also just then beat the Nuggets or the Timberwolves or whoever. Like, I mean, I think the Timberwolves with the Knicks as they are now, or like the Knicks are a really good matchup for the bad matchup for the Knicks, a good matchup, for the Knicks to win. So if you add Murray going well to that, then it just makes it even likelier. I mean, we haven't really seen them against the Nuggets yet, although we're going to very soon. But yeah, I think the range with if you go for Murray, you're really crossing your fingers it's going to work out, because if it doesn't work, then yeah, the team's worse than it is today, which is a bummer. But with Brogdon, it's like we'll get a little better. We're likelier to win the second round than we were, but I don't see that team with just Brogdon winning a championship this year, which is fine. Like we didn't, they only made the second round. I'd be totally okay with them just making the Eastern Conference Finals and hoping that things bounce their way and they get to the finals anyway. But like I don't see that team as like being a favorite to make the championship if everything goes well.
Cool. All right, well, let's move to our next question here. This comes also from ZMP323 in the Discord. What's your favorite part about Isaiah Hartenstein's recent play? And then says it's the stocks for me. And then had a tweet from Dylan Backer in here attached to this. It said, Isaiah Hartenstein, since Stephen A. Smith said some dude named Hartenstein, 8.3 points, 12 boards, 3.1 assists, 2 steals, 1.7 blocks, 104.6 individual defensive rating, second in the NBA, and a plus 110 overall in that time frame. So I don't know when exactly that comment was made. I assume about 3 weeks ago or something like that. But anyway, yeah.
It was made on Christmas.
Okay, well, there you go. So, yeah. Wow, I nailed that. About 3 weeks.
You did. Yeah. I only know that because the video in the tweet has pick today's winner Bucks at Knicks. Like it's clearly from the Christmas game.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's pretty.
Detective Matt.
What can I say?
I was playing dumb like I didn't see. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Zach, what's been your favorite part of Isaiah Hartenstein's play lately?
The team play, honestly, because he does everything and he does not care about scoring. You know what I mean? Like this dude, I love his energy. I think is the best way. Like he is always on the offensive glass. He's just jumping in like chaos. He doesn't care about getting the rebound, right? Like swat it out, cause chaos. Maybe someone else will jump on it and swat it out more, and it bounces around a bunch and lands in someone's arms. And he's a different type of offensive rebounder than Mitch, right? Like Mitch is just gigantic and impossible to move and long. He's like Mitch has energy also, but Hartenstein's energy is a little more frantic and like here or there, boom, 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 bouncing around. And he does it on defense as well. Like, why is he such a good defender? He doesn't really have length. He doesn't really like he moves well for his size. He's not particularly big, and yet he holds up against Embiid. Why? He's focused, he's intense, and he's smart, and he brings that to both ends of the floor. And honestly, I just love watching him play. They play a much more fun style when he's on the floor. Like, I love Mitch too, but that's like much more grinded out, bang, 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 like we're beating you up. Hartenstein, they play elegant. They get a lot of assists. They're moving the ball around, great screening, quick motion. It's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. Like the short roll passing is really good from him. Yeah. The just in general, the timing. Like the stocks is it for me too, but not just because it's like numbers on a sheet, but because they always feel so impactful because of the way that he does it. Like he's so good at one thing that he's been doing lately, which I think he sort of has decided, like this feels intentional. He usually tries to sort of set the tone early with a very impactful block, like in the first like minute or two of the game. Like someone tries him and he just gets perfect timing, blocks the crap out of it. Usually it's like going up to the biggest dude on the playground and punching them in the face sort of thing. Like he usually does it to one of the best players on the other team, like just stuffs the crap out of them and is like, all right, like this is not going to be how you're going to play today. And then teams take note of that for like the whole game. Like he's made his established thing there. But then on top of that, his hands are so good. And granted, a lot of this can be said for Mitch too. Like Mitch, I think, has really great hands in the lane as far as generating steals and stuff. But Hartenstein, I guess the difference is once he generates a steal, if he's the one that ends up with the ball, or if he's the one that gets a defensive rebound, he's more eyes up looking down the floor, like getting ready for that outlet pass and stuff. So it's just like little things that make what he does different than Mitch, like you said, and very enjoyable to watch. I think at this point, like if Mitch comes back this year, even if Mitch comes back with a decent runway to the playoffs, like 3 weeks or something, I think at this point you got to just stick with Hartenstein as the starter. What he's doing and the symbiosis that he has with like the starting unit is just so good right now that like I don't really think you can afford to lose that. But Matt, what's been your favorite thing about watching Hartenstein?
I mean, it's everything for me, but the passing is the biggest because that's the one thing Mitch doesn't have that Hartenstein does. I mean, he can do the stocks, he has the defensive rating, he has the defensive EPM, but he can't. The passing is not there, and it just adds such a fun dimension to the offense. I mean, and the thing is, to your point, Alex, about him coming back this year, they have a very easy built-in excuse to just be like, Mitch, we're gonna bring you back slowly. We're gonna bring you off the bench for 18 minutes a game because we don't want you to get re-injured. And then you figure it out in the offseason when Hartenstein's a free agent anyway. I hope they bring him back, but they'll figure it out then. I think for the rest of the year, Mitch has got to come off the bench, which is crazy. Who would have guessed that we would have felt this way? But Hartenstein has to start. He's just. The offense is just way better, and the defense is as good. So it's, really not even a question.
Yeah. Do you guys remember when he was like bad? You remember that? Like he was so bad
last season.
So long. Yeah. And he like kind of rounded out. Now he's just come. This is the same thing, It's like the mental stuff is arguably more important. Like when someone is not comfortable, they play like shit. And once he got comfortable, he's been an indispensable part of his team.
Yeah, I talked about that with Gavin, like on Locked On Knicks recently, where we were like, remember last year when we were like at around this point of the season and being like, hey, can we just like shoot this guy back to the Clippers for like a couple seconds or something? Like, whatever. Like because the Clippers had someone go down last year. I forget who their like center of choice was at that particular moment. Maybe it was Zubats went down for a bit.
I think it was Zubats. Yeah, I think it was Zubats. Yeah.
I think he went down for like a few weeks or whatever, and everybody's like, "Oh, who are the Clippers going to trade for?" And we were like, "I don't know. Why don't we just send him back to the Clippers, get a little bit back for him? Like things have not been working out here." But ever since since he just decided and like became comfortable with the idea of playing just like Mitch almost, but with the few little extra things that he adds to the game, but like. He was trying to play like he was on the Clippers still for the first part of last year and was still like, oh, I should stretch the floor and like I should do this, I should do that.
Right. Yeah.
And Tibbs was probably like being like, you fucking idiot, like get inside, bang around, like don't be out in the corner, like we don't need you there, go inside, get rebounds, block people, hurt people, do whatever you got to do. And now that's what he does, and he's like, I mean, now it's like a meme at this point.
Remember when speaking of rebounds, I remember us all being like, Hartenstein doesn't know how to rebound last year. This motherfucker gets 20 rebounds a game. He knows how to rebound.
Like when you start to have self-doubt, you start to like you're distracted by your own thoughts and you don't play hard. You get down on yourself, and then you start playing soft, right? But when you are focused in a team environment, and like this is a credit to everyone, himself included. You're focused like that, he's coming out and they're ready to go every night. And that's what's fun to watch. That's what we were talking about before. They just go. It's great.
And this has been Zach's Therapy Corner, sponsored by BetterHelp. Sports therapy.
Are you lacking confidence? Be like Hart.
Be like
therapist. Oh yeah, I mean, wrong Hart. Josh Hart probably needs a therapist too, but for different reasons because he needs to calm down.
Bro, turn it down 10%. That's all. 10%. That's it.
All right. We got our next question here. We got a little run of questions from this guy. We got Jax365, one of our good buddies from across the pond. Jax wants to know, is it possible to get rid of Kenny Albert as a commentator for the Knicks? Yes, I hate him and his voice.
Wow, this is deeply personal.
Tough crap. I'm not the biggest Kenny Albert fan either, though, if I could be honest.
It's fine.
He's fine. He's inoffensively okay.
Yeah.
We had directly underneath this in Discord, Old 34 noted he has good chemistry with Clyde, which I think is probably the best thing with
Clyde
Kenny
does
Albert.
seem to like Kenny. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Clyde seems to like him, but Kenny doesn't get the same good stuff out of Clyde that Breen does, or
I
like
think that's
any
just
other
because Breen's
person.
better at his job than
Well,
Kenny does. Yeah.
But I mean, even like Ed Cohen, I feel like when he worked with Clyde once or twice, got better stuff out of him. Like just was more like probing of like, what were things like in your day? Like, whereas Kenny Albert will just like throw him like a yes or no question, and that's it. And then Clyde's be like, yeah, I guess so, Kenny. Like, I'm more just like, my favorite part of their dynamic is that Kenny never seems to know how to react to Clyde.
Yeah.
Like Clyde will say one of his ridiculous things where Breen would like kind of laugh and fire something back at him. Kenny's just like, all right, thanks, Clyde. All right, anyway.
Well, the other thing Breen does is like you're saying, he pokes Clyde with like, because the best stuff is when Clyde is like, I'm the best of all time at everything, and like Breen will poke him into doing that, and Kenny does not.
Yeah,
like
he knows how to feed him the right input to get the insane Clyde shit.
Right. Yeah.
I think my absolute favorite brand of Clyde content, this is going totally off the rails from Kenny Albert and getting him off the Knicks, but my favorite brand of Clyde content is when he talks about money ever. Like anytime that he ever asks to be like, Mike, what's he making these days? And then like Green will be like, he's making 17 million, and Clyde will be like, oh my God. How much?
Wait, did you hear him complaining during the Grizzlies game about how he didn't get paid to be in the All-Star game?
Yeah. And well, in veterans minimum contracts, because someone was on a veterans minimum, and he's like, "How much is that now, Mike?" And Mike had to explain the whole system to him, be like, "Well, it depends on years of service and blah blah blah." And he was like, "Well, so how much is that guy making?" And he's like, "Oh, like 2.35 million." He's like, well, "I'll take that."
He's an old man, yo. This is what happens to old people. He's just perennially like, "Wow, candy bars were 5 cents in my day."
Oh God, Clyde's
like, okay.
Clyde probably did make significantly less than what he was worth back in the day, though.
Sure. Yeah, it's the dynamic of the league and all that.
But he also because then they interviewed Deuce at the end of the game, and Breen definitely on purpose asked Deuce about what he's spending his money on. Deuce is like, nothing. I'm saying Clyde was like, good job, young man. Like he was so happy that Deuce is like, I live in a shack, even though I make $3 million a year.
Yo, you know who was good? I don't remember. I think this was a Knicks game, but Gus Johnson was on the call the other day.
Yeah, we met. That was the game Alex and I were at, so we didn't hear it.
What was that?
That was the game Alex and I were at, so we didn't hear it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He was great.
They do clearly. Yeah, they have Gus in as their like Spiro Ditas role now.
Yeah, he's the backup to Kenny. Like if Kenny and Breen are both busy, they brought Gus in once last year too, I think.
Yeah. He was great. He has a great
I love Gus.
Also.
Yeah. You know what my honest take though is, if they want to eventually move on from Kenny Albert, is just give Ed Cohen the backup job behind. Granted, he does the radio, and I guess he does a really good job on the radio call, and people love him there, but logical next step. I mean, every time that he's ever done a Knicks game, I've been like, this feels like a very like you could hear a little bit like he overcalls it a little bit just because he's used to radio, where he's kind of over describing things from time to time. But I mean, with a little polish and just spending a little time, like I feel like he's got a good pacing for everything.
Yeah. Wait, that would be
yeah,
because I'm kind of ready for the Clyde era to be over.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, no. Look, it's nothing personal against the guy. I just I would like some insight, with all due respect.
Like, you realize that the person they're going to replace him with is Wally Zerbiak.
No, here's the thing. It's not even a pro Wally thing. It's just I think when it's a dynamic, it's two people, right? Like Mike Breen is working with his partner. If you put Mike Breen with someone more insightful, Mike Breen is going to get more insightful things out of him. Right, like Clyde, as much as I love him, I think his thing is familiarity, is nostalgia. We know what he's going to say. We've heard everything he's said before. It doesn't even register in my brain 90% of the time.
You know what? To your point, they should do what the Mets do. Like Clyde is basically Keith, although Keith Hernandez does, like, when Ron Darling isn't there, Keith will then like actually pay attention to the game. But when it's Gary, Keith, and Ron all in the booth, Keith just like doesn't even know what's going on because he's just fucking around the whole time.
Right, which is okay.
So they should, maybe as much as I love Clyde, they should, to your point, bring in someone as a third guy who would like analyze the game more than Clyde just saying, his catchphrases, which we all love.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's going to be Wally Zerbiak is the problem, and that he's just terrible. So
I don't hate him as much as other people. I would say it's still not ideal, but I don't like. I'm just looking for a little more something. I feel like brain dead a lot of the time. Like just watching. Clyde said the thing. I love Clyde. Don't get me wrong. It's like, oh my god, please give me something new.
I actually don't know why basketball doesn't go to the 3 commentator arrangement more often.
They only do it I've never seen it except for on the national broadcasts. That's the only time.
True.
Yeah. But MSG has the type of money to pay for that shit.
Sure. They just don't. They're just everyone loves Clyde, so they have no reason to change it.
Really, I think my ideal arrangement would be another thing of poaching someone from the radio, but move Monica McNutt onto the call too. Like if you had for right now had Breen, Clyde, and McNutt, and then sub in Ed Cohen every once in a while, that would be a pretty solid sub in Ed Cohen for Breen, and then it could just be Ed and Monica, or it could just be Breen and Monica if Clyde's off, whatever. But she's really good. She really knows her shit. And she seems to always bring something to it. She's clearly talking to the players and doing sort of the sideline reportery type stuff and getting the inside scoop and whatever, while also knows basketball.
I'm just thinking about, because you're talking about Monica talking to the players, and Clyde will just be like, I talked to the players and they call me OG. I like that. Oh, that's the only thing he ever said.
Exactly.
Well, Clyde, it's intentional though, because there's always been a whole thing where apparently Clyde doesn't like to talk to the active players as much because he doesn't want it to turn him into a hopeless homer on the broadcast.
I mean, he's already that, but okay.
I think Clyde. You should listen to some other broadcasts if you think Clyde's a homer.
I think Clyde's more of a homer than Breen. I think Breen is the
Breen is the consummate professional.
When the Knicks shoot a 3, Clyde always get in there. He does root for the Knicks.
A little bit, but dude, not compared to he at least breaks that. If their team is playing poorly or the other team is playing well, he's at least honest about it. Other teams, it's their team could be shitting the bed and they'll be like, well, I can't believe we're doing this against such bad. The Knicks are so bad. What it's and then just saying stuff where it's obvious that they haven't watched a game all year. I forget what broadcast it was that I was. It was the national, because it was one of those nights where I had to DVR the game and I was watching it a little bit late, and my DVR automatically picked the ESPN one instead of MSG, which is always annoying to me. But it was Doris Burke. She was commentating the game, and I'm like, you're a professed Knicks fan, and I know that you watch these games sometimes. And she was talking about with Mitchell Robinson out, Hartenstein's out there to stretch the floor. He's going to shoot some threes. I'm it's so obvious you've not watched any games. He has not shot a 3 since the second game of the season. That is not something that he does anymore. What are you talking about? So yeah, I don't know. I think there's, as far as homers go, they're way worse.
I'm not saying Clyde is bad. I just think he is. I think he is a homer, but I also think he doesn't like to talk to the players because he just feels his job is to be honest about them. I mean, that's the point you're making, I guess. But he does talk to them, obviously, but I think he just doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't want to. He feels uncomfortable with the idea of getting chummy with them. But anyway.
All right. Last thing. So pick your Clyde replacement while we're talking about it, and your Kenny replacement. Pick one of each.
Well, I want to replace Kenny with Gus. As I don't need Gus there all the time, but as the occasional, if he does 20 games a year, I think that's better than Kenny is. I'm fine with Kenny. I don't love him, but I'm fine with him. But Gus is better. Clyde, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Monica's good. I'd be fine with that. But
Clyde, they need to start auditioning different people.
I think they're just going to do Wally. They seem happy with him. Is the problem?
I dislike him.
Even Han is bad. I mean,
Han was bad. I don't like Han on color, to be honest.
I don't love him either, but he's better than Wally. Wally is just so he has no idea what's going on, which is crazy because he played in the NBA.
Yeah, Han is better than Wally, but it's a low bar to clear. I really don't like either of them on color.
I think they're fine where they are in the studio because
I think they're way better. In the studio, I actually kind of dig Wally in the studio. I don't know. He needs more time to compose himself before he starts talking. I don't find that he offers that much on the call.
I would love Jeff Van Gundy, to be honest. That would
bring Jeff and Breen back together. Yeah, I'm shocked they didn't do that. But they're not going to.
Jeff is working for the Celtics now. Yeah.
But also they brought in Mark Jackson for 3 days and then fired him immediately. But
thank God that fell apart.
Yeah.
I can't believe they went after him instead of Van Gundy.
That's what I'm saying. It's never going to be Jeff because they brought in Jackson. So
yeah,
I just like people who like speak their mind and say are just like honest, even if it's wrong. Like just stop giving me bullshit. Just say it like it is.
I think that's part of my. All right, I want to get off this cover because we've been on this,
Yeah.
but I think that's part of it with Han is I feel like so often he tries to say what he thinks is the right thing to say instead of just like speaking. And I'm like, dude, just like take your like radio because he's on radio too much too. I think he's got like radio brain because he's had his like ESPN show for forever. Like he just wants to be like a hot take machine or whatever. And I'm like, dude, just like break down the game. It's we don't need all this. Anyway, all right, let's move to our next question here. Another one from Jax365 here. I like this one a lot. Stephen A. Smith has brilliantly marketed himself as the #1 Dallas Cowboys hater in the media. What sports team would you like to be the #1 hater for? Since Matt is clearly on his phone, not paying attention, working probably.
What I'm doing is looking up the episode number so we're ready to go at the end because we're near the end here.
Oh, okay. So you think we still got the Marvel question coming up? Zach, what would be the team that you would want to be the professional foremost hater of?
You know what? The Patriots for sure. Especially now, like this is. I feel like we're entering primo time to be a Patriot. I've been waiting 20 years for this moment. I feel like we're here. It's been great these last couple of years, even. This is fantastic, and that's where I'd be 100%. I'm so sick of this.
Yeah, they're up there for me. I have had a long-seated hatred of the Patriots. Like that was probably one of the first teams I really truly like grew to know how to hate.
It's like visceral. Like it's like a real true like
and this is like I don't know if I've given this breakdown before, but literally my Patriots hatred has spanned 2 fandoms too. Because for the first part of my life when I was growing up, I was a St. Louis Rams guy because like the first football team that ever like captured my attention was The Greatest Show on Turf. And so like I latched on to like Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner and all them. And that was like the first team that I rooted for. And that was my first ripping out of my heart in a Super Bowl was the Patriots beating the Rams. And then when the Rams moved to LA, I also hate their owner. The Cronkies are fucking assholes. And so when they moved to LA and like my dad lives in St. Louis for those who don't know. So it became easy for me to like just root for the Rams as like my home away from home team. But then when their owner moved into LA, I was like, well, I'm never going to be a fucking LA team fan ever. Like fuck that city as far as sports fandom is concerned. And so I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll just go back home to the Jets because I've always softly rooted for them. And then I also had the built-in Patriots hatred there. So that is a really good answer. I want to pick a different one. I'm trying to think like
basketball is tough because it's so much more diffuse. I feel like it's more dynamic. Like the Patriots have been the enemy for so long, like unlike any basketball team, in my opinion.
Well, because like the Spurs were like imminently kind of likable, like, or the Warriors have been kind of likable because they played fun basketball, you know? So it's like, and they're in the other conference. So like they never affected the East Coast teams, whatever. Like, I don't know. I want to think of a team for like the Mets too. Like,
it's the Braves.
You thinking the Braves?
I fucking hate the Braves.
I think I hate the Phillies more than the Braves as far as Mets fandom.
The Phillies are too wacky. There was a period where I hated the Phillies more, but they're too wacky because they have all these like guys who can't play defense but just hit home runs and like just walk around like with their knuckles dragged on the ground like idiots. Like I have a hard time. Like I have a hard time hating them at this point. I mean, I don't like them. I don't want them to win, but like fuck the Braves and they're like like going in back rooms and like threatening people to take bad contracts to stay with them. Like no. I don't want to get too derailed here of how much I hate the Braves, but it's great.
Yeah, I don't know. I just go towards the Phillies because I hated their players more. Like Chase Utley is one of my most hated athletes of all time.
Yeah.
I never liked Jimmy Rollins either, even though he was less hateable than Chase Utley, but like was never like a huge fan of any.
He stole the MVP award from David Wright in 2007. So like,
oh yeah, that's true. I guess maybe that's where that came from. And Ryan Howard too was just annoying like that too.
Yeah.
Also, they were the team that like their comeback was what pushed the Mets out of the playoffs that year. Granted, it was also
and the next year.
And the next year, granted, that was also just the Mets
I mean, it was the
sucking.
Mets sucking, yeah.
But still, they were the team that like overtook that and then won a World Series off one of those appearances, which is even more annoying.
Yep.
Likewise, I really dislike the Cardinals because of the 06 NLCS. That created a great hatred in me.
Yeah.
Basketball wise, I feel like I don't have that because the Knicks have been so like pathetic for so long that it's hard to really be like, well, this team was holding my team down.
I do hate the Heat. I hate the Heat.
I do hate the Heat. Yeah, they're very hateable.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate the Hawks, but I would never be like the.
I don't care about the Hawks anymore. Like, I
because
hate them
they're
for 2
irrelevant
years.
now.
And now you got Trae Young still prancing around on his under 500 team, being like, "The Knicks can't stand me." Like nobody cares.
Like, nobody cares about you anymore. You're not a threat anymore. You were barely a threat to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely not like this. I want to say the Celtics too, but the Celtics has just been like head and shoulders better than the Knicks for so long.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I do
hated
hate
them specifically in like the 2012-13
Yep.
area. I hated them a lot, but since then it's like they're like, who cares?
I don't like the Celtics, but like the basketball team I hate the most is the Heat for sure. But
yeah. I also just think there's something to football where the football rivalries, because you only see each other a couple times a year and it's like a whole build up and everything else. Like, I think it's easier to have that like visceral hatred in football.
And it's so physical. Like, it's really tapping into a kind of different dynamic.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with you, Zach. Maybe we can co-headline being the number one haters of the Patriots if someone wants to pay us to do it.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a football team, it's the Eagles, but I like more than the Cowboys.
Your wish later today, then.
I mean, I love when the Eagles lose, but I also like I know like the Cowboys are like the easy pick for Giants and Eagles and Commanders fans, but I just don't. I mean, I hate the Cowboys, but they're so embarrassing in their own way. They're like, it's hard for me to hate them that much because, like, they just fall flat in their face every time. They did it again yesterday. They just fall flat in their face every time they make the playoffs.
It is so fun to watch, though. Like, I debated turning that game off at some point, and I was like, no, I want to see the fake comeback. I want to see the disappointment.
Yeah.
I want to see.
I watched it until the very end.
Yeah,
because they're being like, okay, if we drive down, we can do an onside kick. We got it. It's like it's never going to happen. You're going to blow it
because you're the Dallas Cowboys, and that's not what you do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move to our next question here. This one also comes from Jax365, another Stephen A. Smith themed question here. After Stephen A. Smith's masterful 40-minute profanity-laced rant about Jason Whitlock, what subject could elicit the same rant level from Schwinn?
Obvious answer.
So many things.
I mean, literally, I got one from just the other day.
My God, you're right. It's fucking unbelievably Malachi Flynn.
Malachi Flynn and or Grimes when they had like nothing to do with each other.
That was the weirdest thing.
So Schwinn, for context, Schwinn the other day, if people are listening to this and aren't in our Discord or they just missed this, during the game chat the other night, we were talking about the Grizzlies game, and Schwinn comes in at halftime. I think he was watching football.
To set it up perfectly because like this is exactly what happened. Zach, I don't think you were watching the game. Right? Yeah. This is exactly what happened. Zach, Z-A-K, not Zach Picorni, the other Zach, asked everyone, like, are the Knicks playing like ass or are the Grizzlies playing over their heads? And the answer was basically both at halftime. And I responded, Malachi Flynn's playing well, but nobody else really is. And then Schwinn responds to that and goes, who the fuck cares? Grimes is playing. I was like, what's happening? And he started screaming at us.
And then Schwinn went on for like 40 minutes, like well into the second half. Yeah. And he even said, he's like, I'm not watching the game tonight. I think he's watching football.
Yeah, he was watching football. Yeah.
And it was just like, this is horse shit. How is this guy getting 10 minutes and Grimes only got 6? And it's like the two weren't related to each other.
Like, me and Alex and Stacy all kept being like, Schwinn, are you going to play Grimes at point guard? Malachi, like they needed a backup point guard. Bushel in foul trouble. And Schwinn kept going, just kept going, Grimes isn't playing. Why do you care about the minutes of Flynn's playing? You shouldn't say anything positive about Flynn. And we were all just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. In general, I feel like it's not that hard to provoke a Schwinn for him.
No, he was like in a bad mood because of football. Although the Bills weren't on, so I don't know why he was in a bad mood because of football.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see Schwinn releasing a tweet saying, I'm finally going to air it all out about that fat bastard tonight and put everything out there. And it would be about Tibbs.
Yeah. He could totally. That was going to be my answer. It would be before I forgot about the Malachi Flynn thing. My answer would be Tibbs. He could totally do that about Tibbs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely just Tibbs. Like, he
Or
would go
honestly,
on
he's
forever.
getting there with freaking poor Josh Hart, who does not deserve it.
What's hilarious is
They're
that
linked.
Schwinn even goes, he's like, I like Josh Hart. I just
Yeah.
hate how he's playing. And it's
Right,
like, damn,
yeah.
bro. You're really going in on.
So also, Tibbs and Josh Hart are like kind of the same. Like Josh Hart is what Tibbs would be as a player in a sense.
Yeah. Well, it's also like with quickly gone, Hart is the biggest symptom of Tibbs's issues because he's overplaying him.
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. But it is funny because Alex is right. Every time Schwinn is like, I like Josh Hart. He seems great. He's playing so bad right now, and Tibbs won't take him off the floor. So he like
Really, it all comes back to Thomas, though.
yeah, it comes back to
It's all
Thomas,
about Thomas,
who I love and think is the best coach in the NBA.
Oh man! All right, you guys ready to go to the nerd zone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
can I pee real quick? You guys can start. I've just
Oh,
been holding
God.
this in for like 40.
Just go.
Yeah,
pee.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Just mute yourself before you go, so we don't.
Are you
hear
sure you don't want to hear it?
No,
I do wanna
well,
hear
never
it.
mind.
Yeah,
Leave the
no,
door
this
down.
would be like, wait, did you guys hear about how during there were like Vivek Ramaswamy was on like a fucking Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk a few weeks ago and just like full on pissed on the Twitter space.
No, I won't.
And they were like, someone's peeing, and then Vivek finally goes, oh, that's me, guys. I'm sorry, I forgot to mute.
Oh man, I should have just gone to pee.
You
Now
should.
All right, let's not do that. All right, let's go ahead and mute yourself and go pee. We'll start on this conversation. All right, so we've got two Marvel questions. I'm trying to decide what order to tackle these in. I'm gonna just do the first one first, the more Mimi question, because then we can answer the other one together.
Zach is gonna want to answer the other one anyway. I think more than the first one.
So oh wait, so you want to do the first one last?
I want to do our Marvel movies arc because I think Zach would rather answer the why does the MCU keep missing question.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. All right, so
no, I was agreeing with you.
So from Zan Rosen, our Marvel movies art. My short answer is it depends on how you define it. Like, are they fine art? Are they redefining what a movie can be? Yes. In some ways, yes.
I mean, actually, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Like in some ways they did. Like the whole MCU saga redefined what movies could be. It turned movies into comic books essentially, where they could have crossovers and have characters that aren't confined to their own universes and all this stuff. But in the broader sense of things, if you consider anything that anyone creates and spends time creatively on as art, then it was someone's art. Every movie was someone's art, and whether you like it or not is much like whether you go to MoMA and like every piece you see on the wall or not, but they're all art.
Which I do because I am a refined man.
You like all of them, right?
Every isn't that what being a true art appreciator is? You just like all of it.
Yes, and you give everybody praise,
right?
Regardless if you like it or not.
That's 5 stars. That's 5 stars. That's 5 stars. Like it's just the scale is meaningless because all art is perfect.
That's how art works. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you got it. You nailed it.
I know.
But yeah, I think just in the broadest sense possible, yes. Like all movies are technically art. So yes, MCU films, whether you like them or not, whether you think they're fine art or not, they are art because someone multiple people really put hundreds of people put creative energy into it and tried to make it the best that they could make it, and put some bit of themselves into something creatively, which is like the very definition of art, at least to me. That's my definition of art.
Now to answer the way Zan is actually, I agree with you. The way Zan is actually asking it, no. Like I know what he's trying to elicit here, and the answer is no. But that's fine. Like sometimes here's a good example. I just spent the last week or so binging Monarch Legacy of Monsters, that Apple TV show about freaking Godzilla. Is it stupid? Yeah, it's really stupid. It made very little sense, but it was awesome because once an episode, a giant monster attacked Kurt Russell. It's fine. I enjoyed it. So, no, it's not like you said. What Zach means obviously is our Marvel movies fine art. And no, they're not. But, they used to mostly be enjoyable. That if you're listening to this and wondering why I just stopped is because Zach stuck his weird face right in the camera.
Oh, wait. Okay. But yes, I'm with you.
Sorry.
Wait, this just made me thinking about Zach's face. I just realized we didn't bring up during the Hartenstein talk. I meant to bring this up, Zach.
Oh, that's right.
Do you care to react to my take that you and that Hartenstein is taller, more talented Zach?
Dude, you know what's funny? I think he reminds me of you.
What?
No, he looks a lot more like you.
Wow.
I think he looks like you.
He's a good looking dude.
He is a good looking dude.
I will absolutely. That is a compliment for sure.
Yeah, this is what I told you. Alex is boring because he didn't jokingly get angry. So it's
why would I get angry at that? It's awesome.
I don't know.
That's your thing.
I just like trying to find your limit, Zach, of where we can go with
Well, we found it. We won't repeat what it is, but,
yeah.
But we found it.
We can't publicize that one.
No, we can't publicize
No. That was a group chat exclusive. But I did find Zach's limit one day.
That was so funny. Zach is like, you can say whatever you want to me, but not that.
My limit is very far, though.
That's pretty far. That's a pretty good limit. I totally respect that.
Yeah, it's oddly specific.
Yeah, it is.
That's all.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to, you know what? If you're in the $300 special tier, I'll tell you what we're talking about.
We'll share the group.
You have to sign an NDA.
Right. And you have to sign up for a year. If you want to spend $3,600 on the Strickland this year, we'll tell you what we're talking about.
And you can spread it to other people.
Right. And you can't tell anyone. Yeah.
Perfect. Only like 5 people made it this far into the pod anyway, I'm sure. So nobody's gonna.
So
one
Zach,
person will fire.
Do you have any thoughts on whether our Marvel movies are art?
I think they're art. They're just not necessarily what people want to think of art as.
Yeah, there we go.
That was basically exactly our take in not as many words.
Yeah. You missed my whole rant about how I go to MoMA and say every piece of art is beautiful and perfect.
I hope it was a good pee though. It took you like 5 minutes.
Dude, it was a really good pee.
That's good. I'm proud of
That's good.
Thank you guys.
All right. And
Zach, you gotta go pee? Zach, you gotta go pee?
Go pee pee.
All right. Our final question for the day comes once again from ZMP323. Why does the MCU keep missing? So, Matt, you dropped a little bit of a bombshell before we started recording about your current relationship with the MCU. So I'll let you take this one first.
I'm out. I can't believe this, but exactly that reaction. I didn't hear this an hour and a half ago.
I'm simulating surprise. Okay?
Yeah. I don't even know what my breaking point was because, as I said, when I said that to you guys before you were recording, Zach was like, well, everyone has a breaking point. And I was like, funnily enough, like, it wasn't the Marvels. I liked the Marvels. It was just, and it certainly wasn't What If, which I actually thought this season What If was fairly enjoyable. But Echo's been out for almost a week, and I haven't watched it. I think it was probably in retrospect Secret Invasion, where I was just like, what the fuck is this piece of shit? This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. They were like drumming it up as something they were like, oh, it's gonna be a great spy thriller. Everyone's gonna think it's like one of the best shows we've done. They have no fucking idea what people think is good anymore. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Like, to that point, even though I haven't watched Echo yet, Echo got good reviews for the first time for other than Loki, putting Loki aside, for the first time for a Marvel show since like Hawkeye, probably.
With the cruel irony of that being that there were all the reports out there that everybody at Marvel was like, this is going to bomb. This is terrible. Yeah. We've reshot this enough. We can't do anything more with this. Fuck it. We'll just drop it all in one day, which we never do.
Yep.
But
my point is, like, the fact that happened is proof they have no idea what's good anymore. I don't know what happened, but I think the word is they thought Quantumania was like a banger. And I was fine with Quantumania, but the fact is most people were not. And after that, they just were like, I think they lost their confidence in understanding what works and what doesn't. And they've just been scrambling since then.
Is it possible that they just consider success monetarily and rather than critically? So for a mad movie,
they haven't had monetary success. They haven't had monetary success.
Well, but is that relative to prior or like? Oh my God.
No, well, I mean, the Marvels made $200 million.
Yeah, the Marvels lost them money.
It didn't make any money, right? It made $200 million, but actually it lost the money. Ant-Man and the Wasp maybe broke even for them. Mm-hmm. Guardians made them money. But also, like, no one's really counting Guardians as anything relevant because James Gunn works for Warner Brothers now. So, who cares what happened with that? I think Deadpool is going to do well, but like
Deadpool is going to be fantastic.
they
Deadpool could
didn't-
be the movie that saves this whole thing.
Well,
to be
yeah,
honest.
but if it does, it's going to be total luck that they bought Fox, because like Deadpool was his own thing already. The reason Deadpool's going to work is because Ryan Reynolds already knows how to make it work, and,
Right. It's already
everyone loves Hugh Jackman. Like that's the reason it's going to work. It's not going to work because Kevin Feige like knew how to make Deadpool work. Like the real concern, honestly, should have been Thor: Love and Thunder, because like Thor Ragnarok was like the perfect representation of how Marvel makes everything work, because the first two Thor movies sucked ass, and then Thor Ragnarok is like, in my opinion, the best Marvel movie. I know you guys have it a little lower, but we all ranked it in our top 5 on the Marvel episode. And Thor: Love and Thunder just sucked. And like, I think it's just like I said. I think that should have been an indication. Or Wakanda Forever. Like, I liked it. Wasn't amazing. I mean, unfortunately, that happened because Chadwick Boseman passed, and like there was really nothing they could do about that. But like, I don't know. I think they pushed back Captain America 4, what's it called now, Brave New World, for a full year, because like they had to reshoot the whole movie with Harrison Ford in it. They had to reshoot the whole movie. Like, it's just they don't. I don't know. They just don't. I don't know if they got spread too thin, or like they just misunderstood what was working about the movies leading up to Endgame. I don't know what it was, but I'm gonna watch all the shit, but I'm not gonna prioritize it anymore, which is a bummer because I really never thought I'd get to it.
Can I offer up something, and Alex, you react, because I have very little to say on this, but my read on this is like what I'm hearing you say is it seems like it's getting stale, right? Like it's just like when you point out Thor Ragnarok, I think part of what made it so great is it was so different from everything before it, and that's because you gave a visionary director the ability to do whatever he wanted. And how often do they do that? Like, I'm not even up to date. Loki was like that, right? Like there's clearly a vision, and it was very creative, and they let someone just do their thing. That's when it works. What If is the same thing. Creative, interesting. Forget all the big picture shit. Just do your thing, whatever you have, and then do it as well as you can. But it seems like a lot of these things are not like that, where it's, again, in service of a bigger picture. Like, don't force it. That worked in the beginning. It's not necessarily going to work now. Let people do creative things and go from there. What do you think?
Funnily enough, I actually think it's the opposite problem. Because with Thor: Love and Thunder, the story is that Kevin Feige said, like, I'm too fucking busy. Taiko, you know what you're doing. Just make the movie. And then he made like a terrible movie because he had no oversight.
Well, but sorry, Alex, go ahead. No, it's interesting. It's not a 100% foolproof thing. It's just.
I think they need to empower. Like, I don't know why it is that some directors and writers, whatever, kind of had the cachet to sort of do their own thing more than others.
Right.
But I think they need to do better about to your point, Matt. Like, I think if you would have oversaw Taika Waititi a little more with Love and Thunder, you could have created some more connective tissue to the rest of the universe. I think that's the biggest problem right now to me, is that they went from this thing that felt big and connected and mysterious, and like where you were always like, it was like reading a comic book where you were like always excited for the next issue because like it ended, like you would get some resolution about something, about an arc or whatever, which was your movie, but then there would be some teaser for the next thing, and like, here's what's coming next, here's where we're going from here. And they did that. Like, I mean, if you think about the breadcrumbs that they were dropping all the way from like Iron Man 1, they didn't even fully know if they were going to be able to pull it off or not. But end of Iron Man 1, it's like, hey, we're working on the Avengers initiative. And then everybody's like, oh shit, like, you mean to tell me that they're thinking about doing an Avengers movie? Like, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden you get the announcements of the movies coming out, and then you're like, oh shit, what are they going to do with this? What are they going to do with that? There was like anticipation for the next thing. And then end of Avengers, after you've culminated that little storyline, then you drop the Thanos breadcrumb. And then there's just like little breadcrumbs of that all throughout, and everything feels connected because you're seeing, Infinity Stones pop up, and you're starting to wonder, like, well, what's the connective tissue between all these things? So even if you knew like, oh, this is a separate movie, like Guardians 1 stands on its own merit, but you see that stone there and you see Thanos in that movie, and you go like, oh shit, like what's coming next? Like what's going to happen with this Thanos stuff? And then eventually that all leads up to Infinity War and Endgame, which was amazing. But ever since then, it's just kind of been like all these like localized stories where they're just loosely saying like, well, now the multiverse is a thing. And it's like, okay, cool. So, but we don't even have like for sure confirmation that all of these movies that we've been watching have even been happening on the same timeline because they're not acknowledging each other anymore.
Here's to your point. We haven't seen Shang-Chi since 2021.
Yeah. And
everyone loved that movie. That movie was great. And we haven't seen him.
And he was only in his own movie, right? Or
did he make only in his own movie?
Did he make a brief cameo in one end credit?
Nope. You're thinking of Captain Marvel being in his end credit. He's been in that movie and nothing else. It's fucking insane. The thing is, like, they just didn't have the ability because they have too many balls in the air. They didn't have the ability to say, people love Shang-Chi. Let's make sure Shang-Chi 2 is out by 2024. Like, it should be coming out this year. And they haven't even written rid of the script, it seems like.
And the COVID excuse is kind of dead at this point. Like,
right.
At this point, it's just like poor planning. Like, they're just not.
Kang stuff didn't work. I mean, putting aside, I don't want to talk about Jonathan Majors. Putting aside that, like, they need to, similar to what you're saying about doing the Infinity Stones, the thing with Kang is the amount of Kangs that exist. He needed to be in more shit than Loki and Quantumania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they
put
a little.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Like, why wasn't he in that movie?
They put, and this is coming from me, who is the person who watches pretty much everything. Although I will say my sense of urgency to watch things, much like you were saying, has gone down. Like, I didn't watch Secret War when it was, or Secret Invasion when it was coming out, and I still haven't watched it because I feel no urgency to, because I heard it sucked and didn't really push any story along that well, and just kind of, I saw what the grand like reveal was at the end, and I'm like, damn, that kind of just ruins everything.
I honestly forgot about it until you mentioned, like, who cares? I wouldn't be shocked if they pretend that didn't happen, because like no one liked it.
But they also, I mean, in some ways, I think that they alienated the film going audience, like the movie going audience, by being like, well, if you want to fully enjoy our movies now, you're going to have to pay for a subscription service to watch stuff at home. And you're going to have to essentially do homework. Like,
well, that's why the interconnectedness can be a bad thing.
Yeah. Like, they pushed it too hard. Like the level of connectedness that they had ironically with the Netflix shows originally, where it was like, you would get acknowledgments of like the Avengers in Daredevil, but the Avengers wouldn't acknowledge Daredevil. It like made more sense, because it's like, there's going to be smaller heroes that like, Daredevil was not going to be out there fighting the Chitauri because he's not that dude.
Now he's going to be in Secret Wars, and he's going to fight like Doom or whoever the fuck it's going to be.
Which is fine. Like, if he's in there to a degree, like if he would have popped up in, let's say that they would have, that Kevin Feige didn't hate Jeff Loeb or whatever, who ran the Marvel TV series before, and like wasn't actively trying to distance the movie product from that. You could have had Daredevil show up in like Captain America Civil War, and it would have been cool as hell. And like casual people, like Daredevil resonates enough with casual people that they would be like, oh, check that out. I haven't seen him before. Brief explainer of what his fucking powers are and why he's there. And boom, that's fine. He can have a cameo. And then the people that did watch the Netflix show would be like, oh, fuck, that's cool as hell. But also it wasn't like necessary to watch that. Like you could just have him pop in and it wouldn't be a huge deal. But when they did stuff like with WandaVision, having one of the core tenets of the story of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was the WandaVision story. And it's like, Wanda's trying to find her.
Wasn't, because they realized while they were making the movie that was not going to be able to, they couldn't do that because not enough people had seen the show. So they just were like, let's just redo Wanda's arc, but now she's more evil than she was in the show. Like
she's more evil, gone more crazy, and yet also still is being like, I need my kids back. And if you've only watched the movies to that point, you're like, what kids?
Evidence that the interconnectedness actually just makes things very restricted, which is kind of what I was getting.
Well, the point is, like, when they leave it to movies, the problem was the TV shows. It was working when they had them. Like, people, it was working fine when they had just the movies, because I think you could get most people to see 2 or 3 movies a year.
Well, also, they were just touches, right? Like it wasn't that they were interconnected, almost like an Easter egg. Like you didn't really need to know.
Except for the Avengers movies, and for Civil War.
Right. Otherwise, but even then, no, I saw the Avengers without seeing all of the initial movies, and you can understand, like, because a well-written movie should stand alone, even if it does have.
But I think Multiverse of Madness does stand alone, but the reason it does is because they were just like WandaVision. Not enough people. They realized while they were making Multiverse of Madness that not enough people had seen WandaVision, so they had to like rehash the story.
So you end up fucking both people though, because
right,
you
exactly.
fuck the people who watch the show and actually care, and you also make a bad movie at the same time.
Well, and here's the other problem. The reason so like Scott Derrickson made the first Doctor Strange movie, and then Sam Raimi made the second one. Scott Derrickson was supposed to make the second one, but he quit. And the reason he quit is because they randomly decided they wanted Wanda to be the bad guy. He was going to have Wanda be Doctor Strange's sidekick.
Exactly. Corporate meddling.
And he was like, I don't want Wanda to be the bad guy. They just did that story on the TV show. And they were like, we want her to be the bad guy in this
movie. By the way, did it really well on the TV show.
It was good on the TV show. And like, it's not like Sam Raimi knows how to make movies. It's not Sam Raimi's fault. They gave him a shit sandwich. And I'm not blaming Michael Waldron either, because he knows how to make TV shows. Loki's amazing. He made Loki. Like,
it's bad management, dude. Like, these people, when you have this kind of money, you have a money printer. They're doing it with Star Wars too. Like, you can get away with anything. You can fuck stuff up and still make money.
I don't want to get into Star Wars, but I'm really worried. I'm really worried about that Mandalorian movie.
Yeah, isn't it the same shit? Like, it's the same. It's literally the same thing. You got handed a money printer. You can do whatever you want, and you're still going to make money. The long-term consequences will become apparent if you mismanage it, and that's exactly what's happening.
I mean, it's actually kind of crazy with Star Wars that they did treat it like a money printer and put out one of the worst big budget, in my opinion, one of the worst big budget movies of all time in Rise of Skywalker. And yet got bailed out by the fact that Mandalorian came out like 2 months before that. And so everybody was like, okay, but Mandalorian was so good, they can make this work. And then that happened, and they had it, and then now they're taking that down the same path of like maybe oversaturating it.
They never learn. That's the thing, they never learn. They do not learn that the Mandalorian was good. Again, you had a creative vision that was not connected to everything else. You just do your thing, let him do his thing. Now when we start tying into other shit, it starts getting bullshit. Oh, we need a Boba Fett show. Okay, no, we don't.
The Boba Fett show turned into Mandalorian at the end with no warning. Mando and Grogu get back together in the Boba Fett show. And then you watch the first episode of Mandalorian season 3, and Grogu's just back with Din, and nobody knows why, because they don't even mention it.
I have a question for you guys that I think gets the hardest issue. Is it more important for you for a Marvel movie to be interconnected or to be good? Because I would prefer a good one with no interconnection.
No, for sure. The thing is, I've said this before on the Discord. Here's my opinion, and with hindsight, of what they should have done after Endgame. Do Far From Home, whatever. Then they do 1 or 2 movies a year from 2020 to like now, and then come back with like an Avengers movie against like some threat to like bring the team back together. So like totally disconnected. Nobody thinks about anyone else. Like you do unfortunately, you just forget Black Widow, which she needed a movie, but they missed their window. They should have just not done that movie because it was weird and confusing to do like a movie that took place before or after Civil War, but release it a year after Endgame makes no sense. So you do Guardians 3, you do Black Panther 2, obviously what became Wakanda Forever. You do Shang-Chi, you like introduce one new guy, and then maybe you do Thor 4, and that's all just like slowly seeding whatever, like they're all, and Doctor Strange, and like they're all realizing that there's some threat that they're gonna have to re-team up for, but it's not Kang, it's just like something, a one-off Avengers movie, like the original Avengers movie, or like Ultron, whatever. And then maybe you do WandaVision and Loki, and have Loki seeding Kang for like later. And WandaVision is just like its own thing that the movies don't have to comment on. Right. And then everyone's excited for the Avengers movie because like we've had one Marvel movie a year and it's all just been sequels since Endgame. The Avengers are finally coming back together. It's been 5 years, which is what they wanted to do. But instead, we've gotten 3 movies a year and they mostly suck. Yeah. Like they're doing too much. I think they needed to like really dial it back after Endgame and make us be like begging for an Avengers movie. And now like they're gonna do whatever Kang Dynasty is going to become, because now they're going to like, they don't want Kang to be the villain anymore. Like whatever that's going to be, no one's going to care about it because they're going to have already ruined all their goodwill.
I think to answer your question, Zach, about like, would you rather have interconnected or a good movie? I say, why do we even have to ask that question? Because we used to get both all the time.
Well, exactly. It's not the it's the good movie first and the interconnectedness on top of that.
Like you make the good movie and then you figure out how to weave a tale in it.
And
So
by the
give
way,
it.
you don't have to. Is the thing, like, don't force it. If it's like you said with WandaVision, you can just have a standalone story and then leave it. And you don't have to tie it in.
You can
Right.
you can have Wanda, like, why does it need to be tied back in? You have Wanda have her own. The thing is, if you take out the end of WandaVision, like the very end with the Darkhold, that works on its own, and you never have to mention it again.
Right,
Wanda had this like thing happen where she was feeling this grief about Vision, and because she's like a witch, it manifested in her magic powers, and she accidentally enslaved the town, and like she had her little adventure, and that was the end of it. And like she fixed it, and it doesn't ever have to come up again.
Right.
Like there's no reason for, but instead they just made a movie where they did it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think they just wanted to have Wanda versus Doctor Strange.
They wanted her to be the villain because they thought it would be cool to have Wanda fight Doctor Strange.
But they also missed the opportunity, knowing already at that point that they had acquired Fox.
Yeah.
That one of the greatest like comic book storylines involving Wanda is that she uses her powers to literally wipe mutants from existence at one point, and they now have deleted that from being able to be possible. I think, unless they want to go again and turn this character evil.
They're not going to do that because the mutants aren't even coming until after Secret Wars.
Right. So they're not going to do that again, but they could have saved like her evil turn for that.
You know what they should have done for Multiverse of Madness if they wanted Doctor Strange to fight Wanda? Have it be an evil Wanda from a different dimension. It's fucking Multiverse of Madness. It doesn't have to be our Wanda. Just have it be an evil one from somewhere else.
So stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But also because they've done such a poor job establishing who is what from where, it could just be, they could even just say that was her anyway. That was a different Wanda anyway. Like there's just, it's kind of nonsensical, like the way that they've done it. That's part of the thing too, is like, to like reference like Always Sunny, because I just watched this episode, but it's like we're singing the "What Are the Rules" song. Like, what are the rules? Like, what is going on here? What is this whole world now? Like, how does this
thing didn't work, and they're gonna. I actually think they kind of got bailed out by the fact that Jonathan Majors was such a piece of shit, because now it's easy for them to say, "Oh, we're just gonna dump Kang," but.
My greatest hope is just that Deadpool is awesome and makes fun of all of it in a way, and also explains all of it simultaneously, and just kind of puts it all back together and sends everything in whatever direction it's got to go in. But
even that isn't that indicative of they have an inextricable problem, because if you then need to watch Deadpool to understand the rest, you're running into the same problem again. I think you need to chill out and just reset and just make individual movies for a while,
right?
And just make them good, and that's it.
Well, I feel like they think they can't. Because they have to. Honestly, what they should do, what I think they need to do is, because like I said, I'm a genius film exec, so obviously my idea would have worked. I think they needed to like slowly drip feed us stuff until they did a whole new Avengers movie. I think what they need to do now is have like forget all the other movies we're making. There's an Avengers movie coming out in 2 years, and that's the next movie after Deadpool. But they're not going to do that because they already filmed Captain America. They're filming Thunderbolts. Like they're not going to do it. But I think they just need to say, we'll pick up all this shit after. We got to just make an Avengers movie because that's what everyone wants, and that's the only way to fix it. But they're not going to.
Yeah, they're victim of their own success. This also happened with Game of Thrones. Like in a different sense, like people, it becomes about the spectacle, which is the point. But you earned it, right? Like the reason Avengers worked is because you made all these individual movies that were good, and you got to know these characters, and then seeing them together is fucking awesome. And you do it again, and you see them with real stakes with Thanos, right? Like, this is real. Shit is real. People are dying. This is intense. These are characters you know and love. Now, like, who cares about these characters? Genuinely, like, there's no one even new. It's the same shit.
It's just like, unfortunately, I think the biggest problem is Chadwick Boseman passing, because like they were like, everyone loves Black Panther. He's going to be the leader of the Avengers. Sure. That's how it's going to work. I mean, the fact is, I think there are problems with making Black Panther the leader of the Avengers, because like that's very much against his character. But like that's what they were going to do.
But even so, isn't relying on one character so much kind of?
Yeah, they did that with Iron Man. Like it was all hinged on, even more so than Cap. It was all hinged on Iron Man.
Sure, Iron Man is much more charismatic than Black Panther, though.
Yeah, but it's a different. People love Black Panther for a different reason. Again, I don't think it's a good idea to make Black Panther the leader of the Avengers, because he's the king of his country. Why the fuck would you make him the leader of the, like he doesn't have time to be the leader of the Avengers?
Also, in the last Avengers, like that's still not a new character. How many new characters do they have that people care about?
Oh, I mean, they people like Shang-Chi, but they're going to forget he exists.
That was also not. I don't really remember that movie too well, but to me, it wasn't really the character. It's just that it was a really good kung fu movie, right? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, you're right.
Well,
I don't know that people.
I think people like the character.
I think people like the character, but you're right. But the best part of the movie, everyone thought, was the villain, number one, and number two, like, yes, the fighting was so cool that you're right.
That's one. You have like a tertiary, secondary guy for hypothetical Avengers. Yeah. Do you have anyone who can even remotely approach?
I mean, again, he's not new, but like they definitely thought Spider-Man was going to be, and but Tom Holland doesn't really even want to make Spider-Man movies anymore. So like,
exactly, how many times are you asking people to do this?
Well, if he didn't want to, he shouldn't have signed another deal.
Well, no, he's going to. He's going.
I think he's on for like 3 more movies now.
He's dragging his feet because he doesn't really want to do it right now. But like, that always happens with Spider-Man. Like, why do they not? That happened with Tobey Maguire. It was going to happen with. I mean, it would have happened with Andrew Garfield at some point if they had made more movies with him. Like. They should not have hinged it on like, yeah, we'll get Tom Holland to be Spider-Man for another 10 years. He's already
you can't afford that, bro. They're creatives. It's no different than other people. Like they're getting stale of this stuff just like we are. Like they're being asked to do the same thing over and over. They don't have to challenge themselves. Like, oh, here I am again being fucking Spider-Man again in a movie that's basically the same thing. Like they also need something new.
Yeah, but you know what? I just realized. So it's not 10 years yet, but Tom Holland filmed his scenes in Civil War in 2015. Okay, so he's been Spider-Man for 9 years. I know he hasn't played Spider-Man since 2021, but like he's been Spider-Man for 9 years. Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. He filmed Iron Man in 2007, he was Iron Man for 12 years, and then he was done. Like you're asking Tom Holland to be Spider-Man for at least 15 years. Exactly. You're not going to get that out. I mean, same thing with Chris Evans. He was Captain America for 10 years, and then he was done. Like Chris Hemsworth loves being Thor, but also, frankly, he like doesn't do other shit. So like he's more okay.
And he also had a completely new character,
right? And he got to totally revamp the character.
Yeah, basically a different character.
You're right. Yeah. Ragnarok Thor was a totally different character. So you're right. He played Thor for 5 years and then Thor again for 10 years, and like so he was okay with it. He's also kind of done now too.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him too, because he had made comments to the effect of sort of like what like Batista said about James Gunn, where he was like, if he's not directing, I'm not going to be part of it anymore. Yeah. Like Chris Hemsworth did say something similar about Taika Waititi, and then obviously the game didn't go, or he
said that for Thor 4, but now for Thor 5, he has kind of implied he doesn't want Taika to do it because he thinks they need to do a different.
Like, I mean, Taika's out regardless.
Yeah, I don't think Taika said that. He doesn't want to do it again.
I'm pretty sure Taika straight up said, "I'm not directing it." Period.
Yeah.
So,
well, he basically said like, he was basically like nobody liked his takeaway. He was like, nobody liked my movie. I'm not making them another one. So like he's done. But Thor, Chris Hemsworth was like, I want to make another one, but it needs to be like totally different than the last two. Again, we need to revamp the character again. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, they're willing to do that. They're not doing that with Spider-Man.
You know who they should get for a change of pace in there? They should get Villeneuve in there. Like,
oh my god,
get a different look in there.
Wait, I think they're gonna get Denis Villeneuve to make a Thor movie?
No fucking way.
No,
no way.
No way.
No
he would
way.
Never.
No,
he would never. He would have been good for like a Loki type thing, by the way.
He would never do that. Like he's only doing Dune because it's like Dune is like high art. Go back to Zan's question.
Wait, you guys know those? Like he did. Did he not do the second Thor movie?
What?
Oh.
No, Alan Taylor made the second Thor movie.
Oh, Jesus. Thor
what the
fuck? No.
No. The point I was making is that he's like, I'll make
Where did I get that from?
Because
did he have something to do with that movie, though? Because they for sure...
No.
That man shits gold.
Yeah,
so,
dude, they did not make Thor the Dark World.
Yes. The worst of the worst.
The worst MCU
movie? Yeah, when I was reading what other movie did Taylor do then?
Alan Taylor? He's like nothing. He's a Game of Thrones director.
Bro, when Dune came out, I swear to God, I read an article when Dune came out, and they were asking, I swear to God, they were asking him about like the failings of Thor or whatever, and like how it was to come back from that.
What? You're being gaslit by yourself.
They were not saying that to Denis Villeneuve.
Did I read a fake article or something?
Bro, memory is a weird thing. Let me tell you. So don't worry too much about
it. Are you thinking of Patty Jenkins? Because she was supposed to make Thor: The Dark World and then quit because like that was when like Perlmutter was still in charge, and he was like, women can't make movies, so she quit because they wouldn't let her do anything. And then when she made Wonder Woman, everyone was like, "What's it like versus making Thor?" But I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. Like
weird. That is so
Alan
weird.
Taylor is made up. Like he made something else. Maybe I know what you're thinking of. Hold on.
What am I thinking of here?
He did make another movie recently.
Anyway, it would be pretty cool to get him on.
All
right. Regardless, I think
Alan Taylor back. Now bringing Alan Taylor back.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, all right. I think it's time to wrap this pod up. Regardless.
Yeah, whatever.
The Knicks play in like 20 minutes, and I still need to eat lunch. So. Anyway, on that note, where I didn't know who directed Thor 2 for some reason.
That was great.
Weird.
What a great way to end the podcast.
What a great way to end, man.
You like said Christopher Nolan directed Thor 2, basically. Like it's like bro, please go watch every Denis Villeneuve. Not to like if you haven't seen any of them, watch them. They're so good, just consistently.
I'm gonna like go find where this connective tissue between Dune and Thor came from.
I would love to hear it.
Yes, please let us know.
You know what? You're the thing you said was so ridiculous, by the way, that we didn't even comment on you saying Denis Villeneuve's name so wrong.
I've never said his name out loud, by the way.
Apparently not, because you said Dennis Villeneuve.
That's how it looks, dude.
It does look that way, yeah.
I know, but you do have to hear it said.
I've never heard it said before.
You have to be like in on pretentious film.
So, yeah.
Like here's someone
like,
else.
I guarantee, I mean, as I said it right, but I guarantee James knows how to say Denis Villeneuve's name.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
He's going to say it with an accent, bro. Like a Spanish accent.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. This has been Knicks Mail.bag, episode
90. Sorry.
90. Oh,
it's 90.
Nice even number. What a good one for the first one of the season. We'll be back hopefully in like 2 weeks. So peace out, everybody. Talk to you soon. Check out Takes from Obvious Bozos next week. And I'm gonna figure this Thor thing out by the next episode.
Yeah, can you please start the next podcast with like an explanation of what the fuck you were talking about?
What I read somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is a connective tissue between Dune and Thor 2.
They both
I would love to see Zach. Just imagine Denis Villeneuve's Thor. That would be a weird movie. That'd be a weird movie.
It would probably be pretty badass.
That would be good. It would definitely be good, but it'd be really weird.
That's because he only makes inspired movies.
Yeah.
Anyway, goodbye, everybody.